Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Have you ever wondered about optimizing your manhood? Today, I have Dr. Judson Brandeis on, and now he is a board-certified urologist, surgeon, medical researcher, and physician educator. So over his 25-year career, he has performed thousands of surgeries and pioneered surgical robotics, which is pretty wild. Now, the second half of his career, he is really dedicated to optimizing manhood, and we had an awesome discussion. I learned so much, and to be honest, I felt out of my depth with this conversation, but that's why I feel I enjoyed it so much, because he spoke about things that are obviously going to affect me being a male, and things that I can look into in the future. And I am sure a lot of you guys will be able to resonate with a lot of the stuff that he speaks of, and also probably have a range of questions around that. So his goal is obviously helping men feel great, to look good, and to have better physical intimacy so they can leave a legacy. And it's fucking definitely a great thing to think about. So he's written a book called The 21st Century Man, which you can buy, and it's 900 pages and has experts. It's sort of like Tim Ferriss's forget the book, but Tim Ferriss's big book anyway, where he's Tribe of Mentors. Tim Ferriss's Tribe of Mentors, but for overall men's health. So check it out. Gents, we have the applications are open for the Strong Men of Value Academy. Make sure you dive in there. Remember, we are striving to help men like yourself to live your best life, and we're doing that through this academy where you will be held accountable. You will learn to goal set, take ownership for the quality of your life, build your confidence, and most importantly, build resilience to get after what it is that you want from your life. Now, to be a part of this incredible community, apply. And if your application is successful, I'll be in touch. If it's not, I will do my best to point you in the right direction for where I feel you'll be best suited. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the episode. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan, Stuart. Let's get into it. I've already
Hey, what city are you out of?
Brisbane.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Have you been out to Brisbane?
No, I've been to Melbourne.
Yep.
And then we were supposed to go to Sydney for New Year's.
Oh, really?
Almost 20 years ago.
Oh, I thought you meant like recently.
No, we were supposed to go to Sydney and then off to New Zealand. And then my wife and I were supposed to get pregnant on the trip, but we kind of jumped the gun.
How good.
And so we got pregnant, but the beginning of the pregnancy was a little rocky.
Yep.
And our gynecologist said, obstetrician said, you can't go. I don't know if this baby's going to make it or not.
Wow.
It was really, really early, tiny little peanut size. And so, but we had already booked the tickets and we told everyone we were leaving and, canceled the mail and took off from work. And so and then it rained the whole time for the first 5 days. And my wife and I, we just hung out at home, and she and I were both like type A+ personalities, but we couldn't go anywhere. Because we didn't want to explain to anyone why we hadn't left. We didn't want to tell anyone we were pregnant because we didn't know if it was going to go or not. And so we just ate, watched movies, and hung out at home. And fortunately, the pregnancy became viable. And so we missed New Year's in Sydney, but we went to New Zealand.
Yep.
Fell in love with New Zealand, but we decided whether it was a boy or a girl, we were going to call our firstborn Sydney.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. So it was a
Awesome.
girl, and she's 19 now. She's just a fantastic kid. She's a freshman at UCLA,
Yep.
And that's the story of Sydney.
That's awesome. So how many children do you have now? So I'm going to change the view here.
I have four.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, most of the time it's awesome.
How old are they?
I have a 19, a 17, and a 15-year-old girl.
Wow. How do you
And
find
then,
being because I'm not a father myself. I only just got married recently, but how do you find,
congratulations.
thank you very much. With obviously with your career and author and doing what you do, I've been checking out a whole heap of stuff that you're on, and you seem like you've got so much going on, and you're extremely passionate about what you do, and I'm excited to talk about that. But how do you find the balance between, I guess, being highly successful and being a family man?
One of the most important chapters in the book, there are 101 chapters in the book, and I got to get you a copy of the book, because I looked at what you're doing, and it's like we're like totally on the same wavelength. Like we're just, and a lot of men's coaches and health coaches are very much on the level of the kind of stuff that I'm doing and that I wrote in the book.
I look forward to reading
the book
it.
has a whole mental health section written by psychologists and therapists, and so there's a chapter on work-life balance. And so I have a narrative that goes through the book that talks about like why I chose certain chapters and why I chose certain people to write those chapters. And so, a friend of mine is the president of the California Psychological Association. So he wrote two chapters, one on vitality,
yep,
and the other on work-life balance. But it's such an important part of my life that, and I'd never liked the term work-life balance, because I never felt in my life like I was ever balanced. So I wrote a little 2-page addendum or a sidebar to the chapter that I call the work-life pendulum, and it swings. Sometimes you're working too much, and other times, not that you're spending too much time with the kids, but the money's not coming in like it was because you're spending a lot of time at home. And so, you just want to find some sort of happy medium where things kind of settle out.
I love that pendulum.
Yeah, I mean, there's not one day where not one day, but it's rare that I come home and I'm like, wow, today I had the perfect balance of work and life.
Yeah.
Some days it's like, you work too much. And other days it's like, get your ass back to work.
And it's completely like, how do you, because I couldn't agree more with that whole pendulum thing. And I think it's probably,
I hope you didn't record my impersonation of my wife. I get my, it'll be a cold night tonight.
You'll be sleeping on the sofa.
Yeah.
No, I think it's, I think it is important to be aware of that pendulum, because there are definitely so many people out there who are striving for this perfect balance. And I think it's really, you need to be aware of what you're actually striving for in any given moment, because, if you do too much of anything, it can be detrimental and you can burn out, or you can become resentful because you may be sacrificing other things, but you also got to scratch the itch in other areas. And I can definitely relate to what you said. There's moments, even for me right now, with the podcast, and with we're launching a new program on Monday. It's been really heavily focused on business, and I've sacrificed my relationship, not sacrifice, but not spending as much time in other areas of my life. But I also know that once we launch, it'll swing back and I'll be able to afford a bit more time and prioritize a bit more time in those other areas. But yeah, it's definitely just being mindful of that. But Judson, I'd love to go back to the beginning for you, and what got you into, or what drew you to urology, or even for the listeners, what is a urologist and urology, and what drew you to it?
Wow. So a urologist is a surgeon and a doctor who takes care of the urogenital system. So the urinary system is the kidney, the ureter, the bladder, the prostate, the urethra, and then the genital system are the testicles, the penis, and then their correlates in women. And so I trained at UCLA for surgery and for urology. And then I did a research fellowship at Harvard Medical School. I did undergraduate at Vanderbilt. I don't know if anyone in Australia will relate to any of those schools, but they're pretty good schools. And then I went into general urology practice. And because I'm in the Bay Area and there's a lot of tech in the Bay Area, I did some really cool things. So we had the second Da Vinci surgical robot in the world.
So what's the Da Vinci, sorry?
Oh man, you guys have them in Australia.
Hey,
you guys have them in Australia. So it's that you can do what's called laparoscopy, which is where you put little ports in the belly, like when they take out gallbladders and stuff like that, and they operate kind of with chopsticks. Wow. But laparoscopy only has 3 or 4 degrees of freedom, meaning that you can move the instruments up and down, left and right, back and forth, and then the little graspers open and close. But is it sort of like robotics
machines where you try and get the toys out of them and they drop down?
Yeah. Sort of like that. But with robotics, you have also a wrist. So you have 1, 2, 3 additional degrees of freedom. So you can do everything you can do with a laparoscope, but you can also move the wrist up and down, side to side, and you can actually roll it. So it allows you to to be able to sew inside a human body.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, you should check it out. It's called
YouTube it after.
The name of the company is called Intuitive Surgical.
Just writing that down. Intuitive Surgical.
It's the Da Vinci surgical robot. And when I first started working with the technology, the stock for the company was at about 10. And now if you correct for the splits, the stock's at around 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's good.
Yeah, it is by far and away the largest surgical robotics company in the world. They have pretty much all the patents, and it's just mind-boggling technology.
That sounds fascinating. I'm looking. Yeah, I'm grateful for YouTube that we can actually jump on there and have a view of it all. How it
absolutely.
I'll end up on a rabbit hole.
So I did research at Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, in the lab where they did the first living-related kidney transplant in 1957, and they won the Nobel Prize for that. And so I got really interested in kidney transplantation, and you can do kidney transplants as a urologist, or you can do it as a general surgeon. I chose to do it as a urologist, but then during residency, I became interested in other stuff, prostate cancer and surgery and robotics. And so I came out and did general surgery general urology for 15, 16 years, took out kidney stones, took out prostate cancer, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, fixed incontinence, all that kind of stuff. And then about 3 years ago, I became really interested in regenerative urology. So the ability to fix erectile dysfunction. So not just take a blue pill, but actually grow new blood vessels. Right? Because the blue pill doesn't work on everyone, right? And so there are technologies like shockwave therapy, like the use of PRP or platelet-rich plasma or stem cells, where you can actually cause the growth of new blood vessels in the penis and improve a man's ability to get an erection.
So with all of that sort of stuff, that's really fascinating. And I think from a lot of movies, when they generically show Viagra, there's always like an idea of how it all works, and you've got like a raging hard on for hours once you take Viagra. But is there a general age group where you start sort of needing to prioritize this sort of stuff? Or
yeah, I mean, it depends if you're an American or Australian.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
We're behind.
Yeah. No, okay. So they did this study. It's called the Massachusetts Male Aging Study. It's the largest study of men ever done in the United States. And what it showed is that 40% of men in their 40s have some degree of erectile dysfunction. 50% of 40. Yeah.
Whoa.
And 50% of men in their 50s, and 60% of men in their 60s, and 70% of men in their 70s. Okay, but here's the interesting thing. Okay. When you're 20, okay, so let me back up just a bit. Most erectile dysfunction is what we call vasculogenic, right? It comes from clogged pipes, clogged arteries, right? And you guys in Australia probably eat a somewhat similar diet to the crappy diet we eat in the United States, right? And so the stuff that we eat has a lot of cholesterol and a lot of fat, and it blocks our arteries. And the penis and the toes are the two furthest organs from the heart. So those are the two last things in your body that get blood, right?
The penis and the toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right? But you don't get toe erections.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So what happens is, as the blood pressure decreases in the toes, your feet get cold, you go and put some socks on, and that's it.
Yep.
Right? The feet don't cease to function because the blood pressure is lower. But the penis is different. As the blood pressure decreases to the penis stops working. Right? So what happens with the penis is that when the time is right and a guy gets turned on, blood rushes to the penis, okay? And it goes through an artery called the deep cavernosal artery that runs right through the middle of what we call the corpora cavernosa, or the erectile body. So there are tubes on either side of the penis, one on the left, one on the right, okay? And they fill up what are called sinusoids, these little chambers on the inside of the penis. The inside of the penis almost looks like a sponge. And as the pressure increases in the penis, the venous return, the return of deoxygenated blood, is on the outside of those erectile bodies. And each erectile body kind of looks like a cigar. So they're basically two cigars sitting next to each other. And then the urethra, where we urinate through, that's on the bottom. Right? And people always say, well, you know why God was an engineer? It's because he put a sewer line through a recreational area.
That's brilliant.
It's a urology joke, right? You have to laugh doing the stuff that we do. Okay, so we're filling up the cylinders with blood, right? And as we fill up those cylinders, we block the return of deoxygenated venous blood back to the body, right? But the artery has muscular walls, so it keeps pumping blood into the penis, and it fills the penis up, and that's how you get enough rigidity that you get an erection. It comes up off the floor, right? So there's a threshold blood pressure that you need to get a rigid erection, to trap that venous blood. If you don't achieve that threshold blood pressure, then you get a full penis, but you don't get a rigid erection. So you still look confused. So think about it this way.
I'm just thinking about it. Like, I find this so fascinating because I've never really had a discussion.
You never had an erection? Oh, it's just
Yeah.
a discussion.
Well, probably not in the last 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay. So think about it this way. You're on a burning building.
Yep.
Right? And there's another building 6 feet away. So you jump.
Yep.
If you jump 6 feet, it's a good day. If you jump 5 feet, it's a long way down. Right? The penis is the same way. If the blood pressure in the penis has to get up to 100 in order to block the return of venous blood, if you get to 100, it's a good night. If you get to 95, it's a long, frustrating night.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So what I do in my office is I work on how to improve blood pressure in the penis with men.
Can I ask a question around how would a bloke know what I guess that 100% threshold actually is? If, actually, even going back to those figures you said where it was like 40% in their 40s, 50% in their 50s, like that's way more common than I expected or was aware of. So there's definitely going to be so many blokes listening to this now. How can you, I guess, judge the fact that it's the best that you've got, or if you are already sort of struggling in that department?
Okay, so think about it this way. When you're 20,
Yep.
What happens every morning when you wake up?
Got wood.
Exactly. Okay. When you're 40 or 45, when you wake up, sometimes you don't have wood, right?
Yep.
That's the earliest warning sign that you're beginning to develop cardiovascular disease. Okay? Because an erection is a function of circulation.
Shit. So it's linked to cardiovascular disease then as well.
So 10 years after you lose morning erections, approximately, you'll begin to develop erectile dysfunction, meaning that when you're having sex with your partner or spouse, you'll begin to lose your erections in the middle, or sometimes you won't even be able to get an erection. Okay. 10 years after that, you may have a heart attack or you may have a stroke, right? So loss of morning wood is an early warning sign to tell you that, maybe I should lose a little bit of weight. Maybe I should start exercising more. Maybe I should stop smoking or stop drinking too much, right? It's if you take it seriously, if you realize what it is, it's an early warning sign. It's the Mother Nature or the good Lord telling you that things aren't working the way that they used to.
That is fascinating. I'm blown away by how common it is, because it's still something that I never really hear people talking about. Even in the work that we do, it's not something that's extremely commonly discussed, but obviously based off the figures, generally probably 1 in 3 people are going to be struggling in that department, which is
50% of men over 50.
It's insane. And not only from the warning signs that you mentioned around it can lead to cardiovascular disease, and obviously the things that we can do based around exercise, looking at your diet and your lifestyle factors, but just for a healthy sex life as well, and the way that you get to experience your relationships is so important.
Well, think about it this way, right? The arteries to the penis, the internal pudendal artery, is 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter, right? The coronary arteries, the arteries to the heart, are 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter, right? But it's pi r squared. So the cross-sectional area of the arteries to the penis are 1/4 of the cross-sectional areas of the arteries to the heart. And the first thing that gets blood in your body is the heart. And the last thing that gets blood in your body is the penis, right? So that's why it's a really early sensitive indicator of cardiovascular disease. And erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular disease, they're the same problem. They're just stigmatized. So say your dad, has to go to the cardiologist, and you show up to work and you're like, hey guys at work, listen, I got to take my dad to the cardiologist. He's having some heart problem. And everyone in the office is like, oh, what a nice son. You're taking your dad to the cardiologist. So say the next day, you're like, hey guys, listen, I got to take my dad to the urologist. He's having a lot of problems getting a boner. Right? What are people going to look at you like you're insane? But you know what? It's the same disease process, just different blood vessels.
Why do you feel there is a stigma around it?
That's a societal question.
Yeah.
And, growing up, of course, people are immature about those kind of things. I've gotten to the point in my life where I've done everything you could do to a penis. I've put in penile implants. I've fixed guys who tried to cut their penis off. I've circumcised penises. I've stuck needles in penises. So I could talk about the penis all day, and it's like talking football or Australian rules football or whatever, it's just like, it's normal to me. And it's actually really fascinating from a scientific perspective. So when I was at UCLA, my professors discovered nitric oxide, which is how you open up blood vessels, and especially blood vessels in the penis. And they also discovered the mechanism of action for Viagra. And so there's really a lot of fascinating Nobel Prize winning science behind penile physiology.
From a performance standpoint, like, because I remember when I was training as an athlete 4 hours a day, like me and my training partner, we'd always joke about it. Like you just couldn't get wood because you were just so, and this is the story that we told ourselves. I'd be interested to get your knowledge on it, but like it does stress and I guess fatigue play a role in that as well, because we were
Of course.
Yeah, so it does.
All right. So if you're a stressed and tired caveman, is it a good time to have a baby? No. Like so the thing is, like, we're just like a tiniest blip on the evolutionary scale. Like humans now we're off of evolution, but our physiologic systems are still what evolution built for us, right? So, I tell this story to my patients all the time because getting an erection or having physical intimacy is half physiologic and half psychological, right? But psychological is kind of a lousy term for it because people think, well, I'm crazy, I can't have an erection. Okay, but that's not what it is. Okay, think about it this way. If you're being chased by a bear, can you get an erection?
Haven't been chased by a bear, but I wouldn't imagine I would be getting one.
Yeah, or if you're you guys don't have too many fierce creatures in Australia.
Oh, we got like things that I'm probably scared of is snakes and
yeah. If you're being
like
chased by a wallaby or
you wouldn't be, you would not have wood, no chance.
Yeah. Okay. So why? The reason for that is that you produce adrenaline, epinephrine. Okay. And what that does is it brings blood flow to your muscles, to your eyes, to your brain, to your heart, because you got to be prepared to fight the bear or run away. Okay. But the same stress hormones get released when, your wife is pissed at you, or you're having stress at work, or you're training for a triathlon and you're worried that, someone else is going to beat you. And then the last 5 years of your life are going to be, a waste of time, right? You're producing the same. And when you're training like that, also, you're producing cortisol and a bunch of kind of chronic stress hormones. And so if you're a caveman and you're chronically stressed because you can't find food and there's a saber-toothed tiger out in front of your tent, it's not a good time to procreate. And so your libido is going to be down. For women, they don't menstruate, right? A lot of female athletes, especially female endurance athletes, don't menstruate, right? I mean, think about it this way. If you're a migrating animal, which, Mother Nature probably thinks a female endurance athlete is a migrating animal, because why else would someone run 12 miles a day? Are you crazy? What kind of idiot? I mean, I used to be a cross-country runner and a triathlete, so I'm kind of making fun of myself a little bit. But, what kind of lunatic would spend all their days running and doing sit-ups and push-ups and training? You should just be sitting on the couch, eating bonbons and procreating, because that's what Mother Nature wants you to do.
Good point. Very, very good point.
So
even with dealing, like using that example, because I was thinking about that the other day. It's funny when you said you were picking your son up from track, because I've got a 400-meter race tomorrow. But when I was practicing my starts earlier in the week, the last couple of like time trials I've done, I've always cruised just to see how much I can bring it home. But I'm always like, I've got too much left in the tank. And I'm like, why is my body or my brain, stopping me from just gassing it in that first 200 to see where I burn out or to see where my threshold is? And that's when I sort of started thinking, our brain is so far behind, or hasn't evolved to the point that I can realize that I'm not going to die doing this, I can just stop running, but it feels like a bear's chasing me, and I could, as you said, I either
well, see, but the thing is, all right, so the physiology is really interesting. So you have circuit breakers in your brain, right? So if you hear those stories, people go camping and a rock falls on them and they have superhuman strength and they throw the rock off of them, right? So that's actually possible. We have a lot more strength in our muscles than we know that we have, right? But we don't tap into it because we have a circuit breaker in our brain that tells us not to overtax or overextend a muscle, because you can then tear the muscle. And if you are like a kangaroo and you tear the muscle in your leg and you can't hop around anymore, you're dead, right? And then you can't procreate, and then that's it. So, we've evolved with a circuit breaker in our brain, but if you get to a point where that it's life or death, then who cares if you destroy a tendon or not? Yep. And so you get this massive surge of adrenaline, and you can overstimulate a muscle to do things that you didn't think were possible.
It's pretty exciting to think about that.
Yeah. Well, the amazing thing is, so there's a technology that I talk about in my book, The 21st Century Man, called mSculpt, which is high intensity focused electromagnetic waves. I don't know if you have it in Australia.
No, I was looking at it on your Instagram before.
Oh, it's just insane.
Yeah. So how does that all work?
So it uses, so the way that a muscle works, if you want to lift up your arm, your brain sends a message down a nerve. You create an ionic gradient of positive and negative, which basically produces a chemical electrical current, which then goes down into a peripheral nerve, right? So you have central nerves down the spinal cord, peripheral nerves out to the arm, and then you depolarize the muscle. And you have thin and thick fibers in the muscle that intercalate, and those fibers slide alongside each other and contract or shorten the muscle. And when you do that, you create movement. Okay. But a nerve has to depolarize, but then it has to repolarize and depolarize and repolarize and depolarize and repolarize. And there's a limit to how quickly it can do that. Okay. What this technology does is it creates a 2 Tesla electromagnetic field. And if you're not a physicist, that's a really, really big electromagnetic field. Okay. And that electromagnetic field bypasses the nerves and depolarizes muscle. So like if you've ever used a TENS unit, right, where you kind of run current on one, but that's a direct current. Remember back for like high school chemistry or physics, direct current is that loop, right? And so direct current will take the path of least resistance. So it has to go through the skin. When it goes through the skin, it creates heat, and then it goes superficially through the muscle. Okay. So high intensity focused electromagnetic waves create a deeper, you can set the depth of penetration of the current, and it contracts muscles really in a very intense, deep way. And so I have a series of men who are in their 60s, right? At an age, I've sort of become an expert in building muscle after the age of 50. And you should read, right after the mSculpt chapter, I have the Brandeis MD Physical Rejuvenation Protocol. It's a really, really cool, very simple protocol, but the results have been just astonishing. So in men over 60, I have a whole series of men that over a period of about 4 months, I've built 5 to 10 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
5 to 10 pounds of muscle in a period of 3 to 5 months.
Jesus. That's
right.
Incredible.
And it's, first of all, you have to make sure their testosterone is okay. Yep. So 60-year-olds can't build muscle if their testosterone's not adequate or high. And the higher, the better.
Can we talk about testosterone a little bit?
Absolutely. I love talking about testosterone.
And
you're hitting like all my favorite subjects: working out, testosterone, sex. I mean, what else could there be? Relationships,
yeah, I'm just fascinated
mental
by
health. It's all in the 21st Century Man. The 21st Century Man, this book that I wrote, I got to get you a copy, right? Because it's by far and away the most comprehensive and medically accurate book ever written for men over the age of 35. If you're under 35, you have to wait 5 or 10 years to buy the book.
Earn the right to read it.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, when you're 20 or 25, you can do all sorts of stupid stuff and get away with it. Right. Like, you'd go all night to a raging party, wake up on 3 hours of sleep, go to work and function. Right. I could do it anyway.
I'm struggling.
But, I'm 54 now. I can't do that. First of all, I don't drink anymore, but even, if I have 3-4 hours of sleep, my whatever's happening in my life, I don't get enough sleep or whatever, it's really hard to function the next day. And it's because as you get older, it's harder and harder to compensate. And it's because there are physiologic changes that occur, right? Our mitochondria don't make as much ATP. Our protein synthesis from Golgi apparatus and the endoplasmic reticulum isn't as good. We begin to get DNA damage. We have chronic inflammation. We don't use our nerves properly. Our muscles break down. The muscle density decreases. It's just, these are all changes that everyone goes through as they get older, whether they like it or not. I show my patients this graph that shows the world record for the 100-yard dash. And from 20 to 55 or 60, it's actually pretty solid. I mean, a 55-year-old sprinter and Usain Bolt, Bolt's going to win, but not by that much. But after about 55 or 60, that slope goes up. And a 65-year-old sprinter, is going to be way behind the pack. And so from 40 to 70, you lose 0.8% of your muscle mass per year. After 70, from 70 to 80, you lose 1.5% of your muscle mass per year.
And is there a way that, obviously you can't prevent that, or can you prevent that, or is there a way to slow that down?
Well, okay, so there's a whole bunch of ways. So first of all, testosterone is perfectly correlated with muscular strength, muscular mass, right? And as you get older, you lose about 1% to 2% of your testosterone every year after the age of 20.
Yeah, right.
So I get these guys that come in and they're in their 60s and their testosterone's 300, and I get their testosterone up to 1,000.
What should it roughly be sitting around? Sorry, Judson.
Yeah, I mean, what should it be? That's a good question. I mean, what Mother Nature makes it is, my testosterone at 54 should be 500, 550, right? Or maybe a little bit lower than that. A 65-year-old will come into my office and their testosterone's 350 or 400. And a lot of doctors will be like, well, that's normal. See you next year. And that's the kind of doctor that I used to be until I learned about all this stuff. And until I started putting people on bioidentical testosterone and getting levels higher. And then I saw that it was just miraculous. And if you're younger and if you want to have kids, don't go on testosterone. Like, don't. It's not worth it. But if you're 55 or 60 or 65 and you've had your kids and there's no risk of prostate cancer, it's miraculous. And it works in 100% of men, right? So there are medications that work in 80% of men, 90% of men, 95% of men. Testosterone works in 100% of men, right? We're built on testosterone. My son, he's 15 and a half, right? 2-3 years ago, he was 12 or 13. He was prepubertal. His testosterone was probably 200 or 300, right? He's a scrawny little kid. 2-3 years later, he's in puberty. His testosterone probably 900 or 1,000, right? And he's putting on new muscle every day. And he's got 3 sisters, poor guy. So I'm his dad and his brother to a certain extent. So he and we wrestle all the time and stuff like that. And it's different wrestling with him now. He's solid.
Got all the muscle there.
And that's from testosterone, right? So in a sense, I put my patients who are 65 through a second puberty.
And is there any side effects of that? Or is it, because obviously from what I always hear about when you see people in the gym who are on, all kinds of crap, but like boosters and testosterone and all that, there's a huge stigma around it. And I think, as you just touched on before, if you're young and you haven't had kids and all that, like stay away from it. You don't need it. But for the men that you're talking about, are there any side effects? And
yeah, so the risks of being on testosterone are, one, if you have aggressive prostate cancer, you should never be on testosterone.
And why is that?
Because prostate cancer is a testosterone sensitive cancer, right? So the only urologist ever to win the Nobel Prize was Dr. Huggins in 1934. And he cut people's testicles off who had prostate cancer, and their prostate cancer shrunk.
Really?
Not with early stage prostate cancer, with, late stage aggressive prostate cancer. Because prostate, the same way a lot of breast cancers are sensitive to estrogen.
Yep.
Right. And so you take women's ovaries out, or you put them on tamoxifen, which is an estrogen receptor blocker, right? Medical castration with medication is the treatment for aggressive prostate cancer, that's spread all throughout the body.
Body is fascinating, because my dad just had prostate surgery on Monday because he had prostate cancer. So it's interesting to learn more about that, because is it hereditary as well?
It to a certain extent it is. So you should read the chapter on cancer genetics in the book.
Yep.
So there are BCR1 and 3 genes that will predispose you to the risk of prostate cancer. And there are genetic panels now that are coming out where you can assess the risk, but you're too young.
Yep.
By the time you hit 45 or 50, there'll be just amazing technologies.
Yeah, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah, keep medical science, keep going.
Yeah, it's so
save my ass.
I'm like, in my head, I'm geeking out, and there's so many, like, my brain's just like, I want to know this, I want to understand this, but it's also, I'm such a visual learner as well. So I love, obviously, I was looking at your Instagram earlier, and something that popped up to me, and I wanted to ask you about, and I know it's a chapter in the book, but the graph here is, for the first time in history, men's life expectancy is declining. I'd love to sort of.
It's in the US.
I
don't know if it's going on in Australia or not, but in the United States, white middle-aged men, life expectancy is actually dropping. And it's because of alcohol, opioids, and suicide. Diseases of despair. It's really sad. It's like embarrassing as a country, I guess, because we're like the richest country in the world, and we don't know how to take care of our people, especially take care of our men.
Yep.
So 100 years ago in the United States, women lived 1 year longer than men. Now women live 5 years longer than men. And men are half as likely to go to the doctor as women. And there's this like ethos that like, we need to be tough and we need to be strong, and I don't need to go to the doctor. I can take care of myself. It's going to get better. Don't worry about it. I'll suck it up.
Yep.
Right. And probably have the same thing in Australia.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. But you know what? It's stupid. A strong man actually knows how to take care of himself. And a strong man actually knows how to ask other people for help. Right.
It's very interesting. Like, I used to pride myself on never going to the doctor, and I played football overseas and everything like that. And it wasn't until literally COVID that was the first time in 10 years I'd been to the doctor. And I was like, I must be so fit and healthy and strong. And now I've just realized how fucking stupid I was, and one of our things that we get the men to do, which is scheduled in this year, is like, go get your full health checkup from your GP, like your bloods and everything like that, because it's important to have markers. Even if you feel good now, you still need to have a rough baseline for when you do go and do all of those sorts of tests. But even from going back to, you were saying opioids, alcohol, and we have a huge drinking culture in Australia. And it's one of the reasons why I don't drink much anymore, because I was heavily invested in that, in the recreational drug use. And it's really sad to see so many men not fulfilling their potential and using those addictive sort of tendencies to avoid dealing with what's in front of them. And I don't know whether that's sort of similar over there, but I would imagine it would be relatively similar.
Well, the thing is, so, I grew up, I was never a big drinker because I was a runner and a triathlete, but, I drank my fair share of alcohol.
Yep.
And about 10 years ago, when my kids were heading towards teenage years, my wife and I just kind of decided we were going to stop drinking. And first of all, it really dramatically improved my health because alcohol is three things. It's a depressant, right? So it makes you more depressed. Second of all, it disinhibits you. And so it makes you, or allows you to do stupid things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And so a lot of guys use it to meet girls because they're really scared about talking to girls. But, at a certain point, you got to get over that and then realize that it also makes you get into a car and think that you can drive, or it dramatically increases the chance that you're going to domestically abuse someone. I mean, so many of our stupid behaviors are related to alcohol consumption. And then third of all, it's empty calories, right? So calorie is a unit of heat. You can take a bottle of vodka and light it on fire, right? But what are you getting from those calories? There's no protein, there's no amino acids or nutrition in that alcohol. So really it's, now if you're in really, really good shape, maybe you can afford those calories, but if you're not in really, really good shape, then you're going to start putting on weight. And so to be fat, disinhibited, and depressed is not really a great way to go through life.
Nope. And I see so many people and speak to so many people who have, experienced depression and they're obese. And they're like, right, today's the day I'm going to start that health kick and I'm not going to use alcohol. And then you'll see on social media or something like that, they're out having a wine paired with their dinner, or they're smashing a heap of beers on the weekend. And you just sit, for me, I sit there scratching my head and I go, if you are overweight, you don't like what you see in the mirror, you're depressed or anxious, why the fuck are you drinking a depressant? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
You know what I find that men really respond to? So I have a body composition analysis machine. Mm-hmm. Guys respond to numbers.
Yep.
Right. We look in the mirror and we suck our gut up and we, puff our chest out and we're like, oh, I'm just like I was in high school. Right. But I have a very sophisticated, it's about $7,000 or $8,000 scale that tells me, what someone's percent body fat is and what the muscle composition of their arms are and their legs are and their trunk is and what their basal metabolic rate is. And I just hand it to the patient and I read it to them like tea leaves.
Is that like the in-body machine?
Yeah, in-body.
Yeah. Utilize that as well.
Yeah. And, it shocks people into better behavior when they see, I saw a guy today, right? 40-year-old guy, is really hotshot computer programmer, works, he's like a higher up executive at Amazon. And, but he's carrying 50 pounds. I said to him, listen, if I carried a 50-pound backpack around on me all day, I'd be exhausted at the end of the day. I said, that's what you're doing every day. On top of it, because you're obese, fat aromatizes testosterone into estrogen. So your testosterone to estrogen ratio is going to be crappy. You're going to start growing man boobs because of that. Mm. You're going to feel bad about yourself. And, you're not going to be exercising because it's too hard to exercise and you're going to hurt your knees and hurt your hips. So, but at the same time, I read through the in-body and all the labs and all the stuff that I can do as a physician. And then I tell them, listen, I can give you a plan, a physical rejuvenation and a sexual rejuvenation plan. And if you follow that, I'm as good as anyone in the world at creating a plan for you to physically get better, sexually get better. So, but I'm not your mother. I'm not going to follow you home and remind you all the time and tell you all that stuff. And on top of it, I got my own problems. I got my own shit to deal with. I don't have time to deal with your shit. I can give you the plan, but
you got to see
I got to take care of myself. So it's up to you. And that's the other part of this book that I think you'll love, because I've seen your website, which is outstanding.
Thank you very much.
And it's phenomenal what you're doing. It really is. It's like really proactive. And I love people that are proactive. But the first chapter in the book, the thing is, like, it's a guy, right? If you ask any guy pretty much that's been on earth long enough and say, well, what do you need to do to be healthy? He's going to say, well, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't eat too much food, exercise every day, stretch, maybe do some meditation, right? That's like, everyone knows that, right? Yeah. But how many of us actually do that? And why don't we do that? And one of the reasons why we don't do that is we don't see ourselves as the hero of our own journey. Right? Like, Tiger Woods is a hero, right? Or Tom Brady, he's a hero. But these people, they have their own problems, right? Tiger Woods, he's divorced and he's cheating on his wife and he's got car crashes and this and that. He's got more than his own problem. You don't need to worry about his problems. Mm-hmm. You got to worry about your problems. And if you see yourself as the hero of your own journey, right? The hero to your wife, to your kids, to your workplace, to your community, right? If you see yourself as really important, then you're not going to make stupid decisions, right? You're going to make heroic decisions because you're important, because you matter. And see, that's what we have to convince men, that the decisions that they make are important and they really matter. That's the critical aspect of all this.
It's really just viewing ourselves as the leaders of our own life. And if we don't value ourselves, many of us get upset if someone, people, we don't fit in certain situations, and people don't respect us. Yet if we were to take a moment to just sit there and go, well, do I actually respect myself? Do I treat myself well? And for most people, it's no, I don't. Well, why would you expect another person to treat you any different if that's how you're treating yourself? And I think there's a book called The Hero's Journey, and getting yourself to that point where you are the leader of your life and the hero of your own story. And that takes time. Like, it's not, many of us are conditioned to, once again, probably going back to the brain, to stay safe, right? And our body hasn't evolved to realize that our mind contextually hasn't realized that, hey, going for a job interview or setting and establishing some boundaries in my relationship isn't going to kill me. It's just helping me respect myself enough to be fulfilled, to be happy, and to be comfortable and confident in the environment that I find myself in. And for me, it really, as sort of to add on to what you were saying, Judson, it really upsets me to see so many men out there who, I believe all of us have incredible potential, but we're not happy in our own lives and we're obsessing over other people's problems. Like, I don't know if you're getting the news at the moment with Novak Djokovic and what's happening with him in the tennis over here. Yeah. So many people are just like so enthralled by it. I'm like, it doesn't affect your life. Like, you've got your own problems, get to work on those. And whatever happens with Novak happens with Novak. And that's his, set of problems. But right now, if you're unhappy or you're unhealthy or you're depressed or your partner doesn't want to talk to you, go sort that shit out and go work out what you have to do to really be better in that situation.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's just distractions. It's, and every once in a while you need a distraction from your own problems, but for the most part, you should be focusing on your own problems, because it's, for the most part, all of us have the capacity to solve them. Oh, no worries. I significantly reduced the amount of spectator sports that I watched maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And it was amazing how much time it opened up in my life.
I was very similar in 2014 when my rugby career finished, and I was sort of bouncing out of the the drug and alcohol scene, and I was, used to obsess over rugby and AFL, and I was like, why am I watching these guys who get to live their most amazing life, and I'm so unhappy and got so many bad habits? Why don't I just stop watching that and obsessing over that and sort my own stuff out? And that was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. We got the Golden State Warriors and they're fun to watch every once in a while, but to get too caught up in other people's lives and drama, unless you have your own life perfectly worked out and everyone in your life is happy,
Yep.
You're probably better putting your resources into keeping your spouse and your kids and your family happy, rather than spending a lot of money for tennis players that could give a crap about you.
Exactly. But for your book, what makes it different to other books, and why should the men listening really sort of spend some time investing in it? Because I think we'll make it a book for every month we have a book club. So it'd be cool to get to blokes to read it. And for everyone listening in Australia, you can get it on Amazon, on Booktopia, a few of the websites here that you can grab it on.
Much better to get it on the 21stcenturyman.com.
Sorry, 21stcenturyman.com. Head there. I'll post the links in the bio. But yeah,
all written out in letters. Yeah. So, Amazon makes a lot of money for Jeff Bezos, but he doesn't make a lot of money for authors.
Gotcha.
So
don't go to Amazon.
Yeah, don't go to Amazon. Go to the 21stcenturyman.com, and we have the ebook, we have the hardcover book, and this book will always be hardcover.
Yep.
It's a nice, solid, fits well in your hand. And really the reason to buy this book is it's the most comprehensive and medically accurate book on men's health ever written. So it's 101 chapters. It helps you feel good, look good, and have better sex.
It's good.
And it's written by not just me, but like I leveraged my network of colleagues and friends and men's health experts to write chapters that are specialty specific. So, there's cardiologists and ear, nose, and throat doctors and neurologists and vascular surgeons and dermatologists and plastic surgeons and trainers and experts on CBD and experts on yoga and experts on food and nutrition and all aspects of sexual health and PRP and stem cells and you name it. It's in the book. And there's also a whole section on relationships. There's a whole section on mental health, on depression, anxiety, work-life balance, vitality. There's a section on fatherhood, really, because I see men all day. I have probably 30 or 40 or 50 men coming in out of my offices every single day. So I get to talk to men all the time about what their problems are. And I ask them, what kind of chapters would you like to see? And so this is really like a compendium of all of the conversations that I've had with my patients over a period of 25 years and all of the conversations that I've had with my colleagues in all different fields over a period of 25 years, all wrapped up into a single book and written for men, right? Because men take in information different than women, right? There's nothing more annoying to me than reading a 300-page book and at the end of the book saying, that could have been written in 4 pages. You could have given me that information. I would have paid you the same amount of money, but this book is a 900-page book and the number of pages that it could have been written is only 900 pages. It's so packed with really good information. Yeah, and 60 experts in all of the various fields, covering all aspects of physical medicine, sexual medicine, exercise, food, aesthetics, every aspect, mental health, relationships. And it's written for men, right? So there's nothing I hate more than reading a 300-page book and at the end of it saying, gosh, that could have been 4 pages. And this guy just filled it with a bunch of fluff just to make it 300 pages. Like, this is 900 pages and I edited or wrote every single page. And I can promise you that there's not one single word wasted in this book, that it's packed densely with information. It's kind of the Cliff Notes version of everything that you need to know. And it's written like if your next door neighbor was the top cardiologist in town. And this is the advice that your next door neighbor, your good buddy, would give you. It's not what you would get, from the university or from the internet. This is top tier advice.
I'm really excited to read that. And I love the thought that you've put into it. It is as though you're talking to your neighbor about it as well. So you're obviously getting the knowledge, but it's also like, coming from a mate, which makes it a lot more relatable.
Yeah. And it's funny. I loaded it with really funny quotes.
Perfect.
Like the chapter on cocaine, right? There's a quote from Robin Williams. So each chapter starts with a quote. So like cocaine is God's way of telling you have too much money. Or the orgasm chapter, I have a quote from Woody Allen, which is, I wish I could live my life backwards, start off dead and end up as an orgasm.
End up as an orgasm. Go again. Jeez. I want to ask one last question, then we'll let you get back to your afternoon and evening. But what is your definition, or what does it mean to be a man to you?
Oh, gosh. For me, to be a man is to be the hero of your own journey, to make decisions that are consistent with your personal values and your life goals.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. But Judson,
my pleasure. It's
been a pleasure, and I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties. It's very frustrating, and we'll learn from that one. But appreciate your time and your knowledge. And for everyone listening, make sure you head out and get the 21st Century Man. I'll have all the links in the show notes so that you can just click and go directly there and grab yourself a copy. I'm really excited to have a read, because I'm sure there's going to be so many chapters of things that I know bugger all in a lot of things. So I'm really excited to get some expert advice around that as well. So thank you for your time. Oh yeah. No, we're actually actively trying to translate it into Australian. I might be able to give you a hand. Yeah, well, I mean, we got to figure out what bloke is, and just put O on the end of every word, like bottle and servo, and you're good to go. It was so. I'll tell a really quick story. A long time ago, we went to Fiji. Yep. Right, and there's like tons of Aussies in Fiji, and my kids were in the kids club, and my oldest daughter Sydney picked up like a perfect Australian accent for like a week. Really? Like, yeah. Like, I mean, you could not tell her from like her accent from any of the other kids from Australia. It was so cute. Like, it wasn't the Crocodile Dundee Australia accent. It was like really like legit. Like more of a Melbourne Australian accent. Yeah. As soon as as fast as it came in, it went out. I was disappointed. It's incredible how kids and linguistic, and they can really do it so well. It's remarkable. Thank you so much for your time. Oh, my pleasure. So if you ever come over to the Bay Area, please look me up. My office is really super unique. We do some really amazing stuff. Right now we have a penile elongation study. What's that involve? So it involves PRP, traction, suction, and a circulation boosting supplement. And we're actually increasing the size of men's penises in a super safe and healthy way. Right. And then I just finished the study showing a technology that improves the intensity and duration of orgasm. Bloody hell, you get to get into all the interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not curing cancer, but I'm doing some good stuff.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Once again, thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you got value, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And remember, at the Man That Can Project, we're all about helping you be the best version of yourself. So go out there today and do something that makes you better. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.